Hey, my love. I don't know what's going on with my camera. The light literally just changed on me. Okay, I think it's, see, I don't know what's going on with the sun. The sun is back out again, so the light has shifted some. All right, so we are back for our astrology and archetypes, okay? So we're doing the energy forecast for the collective from the 5th month, 6th day, up until the 13th. So from today, Monday, or this evening, Monday, up until next Monday. Okay. So my disclaimer is energy is fluid. You want to go ahead and take what you need, leave what you don't, apply what needs to be applied. But you also need to be mindful that these messages are not for everyone, right? So because we are dealing with energy on a collective basis, someone else could experience something different, even though we're all dealing with the same collective archetype. Okay, so the sun is still in Taurus, which means very measured behavior, very patient energy. This is energy of persistence and endurance, but it can also be energy of materialistic energy, possessive energy, stubborn energy, and overindulgence, being very self-indulgent, okay? And this can go into you're feeling a type of way and you go and you overspend, all right? So Taurus also deals with your stability as well as your finances, so you can find that that's the focus this month. What feels stable, what doesn't, what money you have, what money you don't, what money needs to be accumulated, what money needs to be released, okay? So you can find that to be the topic of discussion while the sun is in Taurus, all right? So keep it in mind, when we're talking about the sun's energy, we're talking about the logical aspect of the energy metaphysics. That would be masculine energy. So we're talking about your logic, your deductive reasoning skills. This is the electrical spark, okay? Now, when I go through astrology and archetype, I do like to talk about the sun and the moon, because the moon and the sun are huge players in how you're able to ebb and flow throughout those energies, as well as your Mercury, your Venus, and your Mars. Those are your personal planets, but I'm only focusing on 2 planets in these readings, okay? So the sun is collectively what we are all dealing with, right? Collectively. The moon also that I'm talking about is collectively what we're dealing with, right? Now, each individual has a different aspect of the sun, or different different zodiac sign in the sun, or maybe even a different moon sign in the moon placement, okay? What I'm teaching you to do here is how to identify what is the main player on the stage and how you're able to navigate through people's emotions or through people's thinking, okay? So just on the place of what people will be thinking this month, like I said, is going to be dominated by the Taurus energy, which has to do with stability and money, your possessions, okay? Things in the materialistic realm, your stability, your house, your car, all right? This energy is going to be persistent and it can endure through things. And it's not that easy to get mad or frustrated. But because the moon transits every 2.5 days, you can find that people will be reacting to their finances and their stability and their material possessions a little bit differently every 2.5 days because of the moon's transit. And the moon deals with your emotions, your creativity, and your imagination, okay? And that is the feminine aspect of the planets, all right? Now, we have 3 signs that we're going to be talking about this week in this breakdown, right? So from today the 6th, when I'm recording this video, up until Wednesday the 8th at about 11:21 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where I am, you're going to have the moon in Taurus. So the moon, your emotional side, is going to be speaking to the sun, your logical side, both from the perspective of Taurus, okay? And this is going to be, once again, based around your stability. So people may not necessarily be thinking about, let's say, anything more than their money, okay, their possessions, maybe shopping, what you need, what you don't need, what you have versus what you don't have, okay? So you want to be mindful of that, because the archetype for Taurus is what you have or what you don't have, all right? Now, just energetically, what you need to be mindful of is that within these 2.5 days with the moon being in Taurus, and we have a new moon coming up on the 7th, you want to pay attention to people's facade. You want to pay attention to even the facade that you're putting out into the world. You want to pay attention to your belief systems, okay? It has a potential to be expanded. You also have an opportunity for new beginnings on the 7th because we are stepping into a new moon. Once you're creating these new beginnings, or once you're beginning to expand things, especially if it's from a financial point of view, you want to make sure that you tune into the things that you're doubting and rectify the doubt first, okay? You can have a lot of breakthrough between this Taurus moon and this Taurus sun energy, but doubt and lack cannot be part of it, right? So whatever you focus on is going to repeat itself. So if you're constantly focused on not having enough, not being enough, right? You don't know how you're going to get this paid. You don't know how you're going to get that paid. It does not give you an opportunity to step into your creativity or your imagination. What you're operating from is a place of feelings, but your feelings can't tap in to your pure feminine aspect, which also is your creativity and the imagination that you're going to use to see your way out of things, okay? So people will be holding up facades as we're moving throughout the moon in Taurus from today the 6th up until Wednesday the 8th, okay? You do need to be mindful of that. You may not necessarily want to share with other people your new beginnings. You might want to keep those things secret because not everybody that's approaching you within this Taurus moon is going to be approaching you because they have kind intentions, okay? You may even have to ask the question while the moon and the sun is in Taurus this go around, like, what are you talking about? So people can approach you with a conversation, approach you with some type of, I want to say, and the word that's popping up is ridicule. Like some people want to critique you, maybe even critique the way that you run your household or critique the way you spend, right? And you may have to simply ask them, like, what are you talking about? Like you don't even know what you're talking about, okay? So just be mindful of that energy. You may have to use that term a lot as we are transiting through the moon in Taurus, okay? What are you talking about? Like, please. Keep it to yourself, all right? So that might be the energy as you're moving through Taurus, is keep it to yourself because I don't even know what you're talking about, all right? So now, Wednesday evening on the 5th to Saturday morning on the 11th, we're now moved over into Gemini. So this is an area of communication. This is an area of networking. This is an area of maybe interacting with people, being a lot more playful, you know, where your charm can come into play when you're communicating with people. Gemini's energy can be like the social butterfly. So you might find within that energy, you might find that you want to do something or get out of the house, right? On the weekend and do something. You may not necessarily want to be trapped in the house because Gemini's energy is a social butterfly. You may want to get out and venture out and do things, okay? Now, the one thing I can say about Gemini's energy also, it requires change. So being stagnant and being stuck, it doesn't do very well with that. So Gemini can change around. So you might start out your day wanting to do this thing, but before the end of the day, you can find that you want to do this, and that, all right? Or you can be around somebody that we start off at the end of the beginning of the day and this is what we plan, but by the end of the day the plan changes, okay? Now you have some of that energy coming in from Taurus where you are asking someone, what are you talking about? Like you don't even know what you're talking about energy. When you get over into Gemini, that energy is going to feel more like what you're talking about doesn't even make sense, okay? So you do need to be mindful about that, right? So you're asking them what the hell they're talking about with the moon and Taurus, but when you get to Gemini, 1 + 3 = 1 is not adding up to you, okay? So in your mind, it doesn't even make sense, especially when they're approaching you about your livelihood, your finances, and your own personal stability. So people can want to come in within those 2.5 days to give you advice, but the advice that they're giving you with the moon in Gemini is coming from their personal belief system or coming in from things that they've experienced, right? So the message is, as the moon is transiting through Gemini, you really need to pay attention to your own inner voice, right? You really need to do things that bring you fulfillment and not fulfillment for other people. You need to give yourself more love, right? Pay attention to what people are offering you with this moon in Gemini, because what someone is offering you may not necessarily be the deal you need to take, or may not necessarily be the avenue that you should go down, because I said you might start off with someone planning that this is the plan for the day, and by the time you get to the end of the day, they change the plan. So just be mindful. If you are a person that you need structure and you need order, you need to make it very clear before you leave the house. Look, this is what you said we're gonna do, and I'm okay with doing this, but I'm not okay with doing that. Set your boundaries, okay? So if you're going out to dinner with friends, I'll do dinner, but I'm not bar hopping. Like, I can't do that with you. So just be mindful, okay? Be mindful also that the energy is going to be still bleeding in from Taurus's energy to what are you talking about, to what you're talking about don't make sense, okay? Now, when we hop on over from Saturday the 11th, and I gotta say that the energy is changing at about 3:13 a.m. on the 11th. So most people will be sleeping, okay? Now, this is Eastern Standard Time where I am. And Cancer's energy is coming in on Saturday until Monday the 13th at about 11:36 a.m. So when Cancer's energy comes over, we're talking a lot about the need to be secure emotionally. We're talking about energy that's may be based around your family and your home, right? This is very powerful intuition, intuitive energy coming in. This is also highly sensitive energy. And within the Cancerian energy, what you might find is that somebody's being assertive, but they're not being direct to the person that they're certain their truth to, all right? So somebody may have something to say and they're assertive with you, but the person who they need to talk to about the situation, they're not doing that, okay? So be mindful about that. So from Saturday to Monday, you can find people's feelings getting easily hurt. You can find people being assertive, but you're not the actual target, okay? You can find people being very emotionally manipulative, so you do need to be mindful of that, okay? This energy can be very emotionally manipulative, okay? Now, you want to find your strength within this energy from Saturday to Monday about speaking your truth and setting your boundaries, okay? It's very important for you because the strength card and the empowerment card is coming up twice, right? And that is a reflection of the sun's energy. So you really want to be able to respond to things not emotionally without emotional intelligence. You want to respond to things trusting your intuition with emotional intelligence and knowing that what works for someone may not necessarily work for you, okay? And for those of us that gives advice on a regular basis, whether it's something that you do because this is your career or your purpose, right? Just be mindful that you can give great advice, but someone does not have to take your advice. So don't get your feelings hurt if you're giving great advice, but somebody doesn't take your advice, okay? And don't be mad if someone doesn't want to offer their advice in this season because you don't take their advice anyway, all right? So because we're transitioning from that Taurus energy, what are you talking about, to that Gemini's energy, that what you're saying doesn't make sense. When you get over to Cancer, that's still kind of bleeding over because Cancer's energy is going to require you to speak to me kindly, right? They're not going to want to have the attitude in your tone. So even the tone in which you speak to them, they may get annoyed, right? Or take that overly sensitive, right? And that could be because of the emotional manipulation. They may not necessarily want to hear what you have to say, especially when it comes around how they should run their household, how they should spend their money, or maybe even the purchases they bought, okay? So just be mindful of this. And also this too. Keep in mind, by the time that you get to Cancer's energy from the 11th, early a.m. on the 11th to Monday the 13th, about midday the 13th, people may not necessarily want to hear your sob story, okay? People may not necessarily want to hear your sob story because remember, the sun is in Taurus, right? And Taurus is energy of it's kind of like they're self-measured, right? And I also want to say Tauruses can be very hard workers, right? They're patient, they're measured. So if they know they have, so it's going to be one extreme of the next. If they know that this is the rent money and this is ensuring a roof over their head, they're not going to go out and spend the rent money on a trip. They're not going to go out and spend the rent money on their pocketbook, right? Now, that is a flip side to Taurus's energies, overindulging, where you do spend the rent money and you do take that trip with the with the rent money. But really and truly, they don't like anything to mess up their stability. So if that's going to cause me not to have a roof over my head and food on my table for my kids, They're not trying to be uncomfortable, right? So just be mindful as you are entering into the Cancerian energy at the end of the week. People are going to be standing in their own strength and their own truth, and they may not necessarily want to hear what you have to say, and especially in the tone in which you're bringing it to them, okay? And people may not necessarily want your advice. They just don't want your advice, okay? They don't like your tone. Or they don't like your judgment, okay? And it's kind of like we used to make this joke at the studio when I worked at the studio. I'm talking to you, but I'm really talking to you. Like you will direct the comment or the question to somebody else, but you're really talking to the person over here. So you're going to find that energy happening within Cancer from Saturday to Monday. I'm talking to you, but I'm really talking to you, okay? So just be mindful of that. Overall, the energy this week is if you want something, you got to give it. So the energy in which you put out this week is the energy that you're going to be meet with, all right? So you're starting off your week being nasty and mean to somebody else. Just know as the week progresses, that same energy that you invested at the top of the week is the same energy that you're going to get the return from at the end of the week. And I do want to say this for those of you that are dealing with financial things, that are dealing with things where your stability may be at question. You want to find something and you know this because I'm hearing positive, but really positive is not the word that I'm being told to use. You want to find something creative and true to your imagination that you can replace, right? That's not rooted in lack or fear or doubt, okay? And that's going to be important because as we are moving throughout this energy, just on a collective level, right? The world is really going through mass chaos. There's so much energy and so much frequency being bombarded and pushed out on us that if you don't have a clear, independent way of thinking and feeling without allowing other people to control how you think and how you feel, right, and be able to navigate these things for yourself, you can find that you can be pulled into depression really quickly. You can pull into being oversensitized very quickly, right? Being overly agitated very quickly. Depression can go from something that you have mood, you feel moody today because of the planets, to you feel moody every day because the vibe in which you are sitting in is no longer a vibe that you can create out of, okay? So just be mindful of that as you're moving throughout this week. It is easy for you to get caught up in a depressive state if you are not replacing your thoughts and your emotions with your own personal creativity and your own personal imagination of how you can get to the other side of something. So stop thinking about what you don't have, what you can't do, and start thinking about what you do have and what you can do, okay? There is, and I'm gonna leave you with this, and then I'm gonna jump, okay? So if you have not studied any teachings along the spiritual walk, I would advise you to study at least the 7 principles of the Kabbalion. I think when you go back to the 7 principles of the Kabbalion, the first principle is that everything is mental, okay? And if you can grasp a hold of everything is mental and you begin to actually work on your mental capacity, being an independent thinker, right? And then you apply your emotions to what you think, because really that's what you're doing, whether you know it or not, right? Your thoughts are fueled by emotions, which then produces an action, which then produces an experience, okay? So be mindful of that. Everybody has shit that they have to go through on a daily basis. And when you're on the spiritual walk, it takes work. Sometimes you don't necessarily feel as strong as you are. Sometimes you don't necessarily feel as capable as you are. Sometimes everything around you look like it's falling apart, but the only thing that's standing true and solid and have some validity to it is what's going on internally, and knowing that you can get to the other side, although it may not necessarily. Your surroundings don't show that right now, okay? You also want to make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people that's on a different vibration. I wouldn't even say a positive vibration, on a different vibration that is overcoming, okay? Not a vibration that is, I want to say, where things are falling apart, okay? So you want to be able to overcome things versus allowing things to fall apart in your life. And that starts really by you understanding that you control your reality. That's maybe a difficult thing or a cliche thing to say, but it is the truth. You control your reality, and you need to start paying attention to what you put in your ears, what you put in your eyes, and what comes out of your mouth, okay? All right, on that note, my love, I'm going to see you guys, okay, next week with the forecast energetically of what you need to work on. Now, I'll be mindful of. Now, keep in mind, right, this is just a summary, a recap, okay? So from today up until Wednesday, you do need to pay attention and just ask yourself and other people, like, what are you talking about, okay? Know that people are going to be presenting to you based on their experiences, as well as their thought processes, right? And a lot of that could be a facade, right? You don't want to operate in lack as we're entering into this new moon, because you could be entering to new moons constantly throughout your experiences. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be a new moon astrologically or in the cosmos. You could always be going through a new moon episode in your own personal experiences, right? The point that you need to know between the 6th and the 8th is that whatever it is you focused on energetically, mentally, as well as emotionally, is going to be expanded, okay? And this usually, because of the position with the moon and the sun in Taurus, it can be based around your stability and your finances and your possessions, all right? Now, when we get on over to Gemini, don't forget that you are going to 1 + 1 does not equal 5, so you are going to have to say this doesn't make sense and be an independent thinker and an independent feeler so you can navigate through this energy. Tap into your intuition as you're moving throughout Gemini's energy from the 5th, late the 5th, up until early on the 11th, okay? Pay attention to what's being offered to you, all right? And whether or not that offer makes sense to you, because people could be presenting you an offer based on where they are, but not where you are, all right? When we hop on over into Cancer, it's going to be talk to me nice, all right? People are going to be highly emotionally sensitive, especially based on your voice. You may have to set your boundaries, all right? Especially when it comes to how you run your household, how you take care of your finances, and the materialistic things that you have, your possessions, okay? All right, I appreciate and love each and every one of you, and I will see you next week in the breakdown. Have a wonderful week, my love. And you want to do something kind for yourself, because you should, right? But do something kind for somebody else, not because they deserve it, but just because you can. Bye, my love.